The lock clicked. Then came the sound of high heels tapping against the hardwood floor, soft and cautious, as if trying not to wake anyone. "You're back." I didn't even look up. My tone was as flat as if I were commenting on the weather. Elena froze, seemingly surprised to find me waiting in the living room. She quickly composed herself, shaking off the shock, and tossed her designer bag onto a chair. As she swapped her heels for slippers, the heavy scent of alcohol instantly filled the room. "The party got a little wild last night, so I just crashed at the hotel. Don't worry, I have my own room." Her voice carried a hint of guilt, though she tried to mask it with a breezy, nonchalant attitude. "Ich glänzte her." Her makeup was smudged, her lipstick faded and blurred. Her hair was a messy tangle against her cheek, and on her neck there was a mark she hadn't managed to completely conceal with concealer. As she spoke, she dug 2 bottles of cold brew out of her bag and set them on the coffee table. "I brought these for you." Mark picked out the roast. "You like this blend, right?" "MMH." I gave a non-committal hum, picking up the remote to change the channel, my eyes never once lingering on her. "What is that supposed to mean?" She planted herself in front of me, her tone sharpening. "Usually, when I stay out late with friends, you pull that long, resentful face. But today you're playing the saint." I set the remote down and looked up, my gaze calm, devoid of even a ripple of emotion. "I'm not mad, and I don't blame you. As long as you had fun, that's all that matters." She stood there, stunned. She clearly hadn't expected that answer. In the past, this would have been the moment I demanded to know why she didn't come home, or lectured her about getting too close to Mark. She used to call me controlling, insecure. Over time, I just ran out of energy to argue. My indifference seemed to trigger her. She let out a cold laugh. "Ah, don't pretend to be so high and mighty, Caleb. It's your insecurity that drives me crazy." I stared at her in silence for 2 seconds, suddenly finding the situation almost amusing. She had said those words countless times. Before, I would have tried to explain that I only cared because I loved her. Now, saying even one extra word felt like a waste of breath. "Suit yourself." I stood up, my tone as polite as if I were speaking to a stranger. "You're tired. Go get some rest." Without waiting for a response, I turned and walked into the bedroom, closing the door softly behind me. I knew she remained standing in the living room for a long time. I could feel her confusion, her disbelief, and that vague sense of guilt radiating through the wood. But what did that have to do with me? I leaned against the door and took a deep breath. I felt nothing but relief. That tightness in my chest that had plagued me for years was finally, slowly loosening up. The next morning before I left for work, Elena was already sitting at the dining table. She was wearing an oversized hoodie, the dark circles under her eyes visible despite her rest. She held a coffee mug with both hands, taking small, tentative sips. I intended to head straight out, but she looked up at me. "Do you have plans today?" "Yeah, heading to the office to wrap up some things." I adjusted my watch strap, my tone maintaining that same neutral baseline, neither cold nor warm. She set down her mug, her voice floating tentatively across the room. "Were you upset last night?" "Upset?" I pulled out a chair and sat down, pouring myself a glass of water. "No, what?" She scrutinized my face, looking for a crack in the armor. "Really? You just went to your room without a word. You didn't even complain like you usually do. Honestly, do you just not care anymore?" I looked at her and offered a faint smile. "I told you, as long as you're happy, don't worry about me." She frowned, as if my acceptance was more unsettling than my anger. "Caleb, are you implying something? You've never been like this. What do you want me to do?" I took a sip of water. "Do you want me to lecture you about being too close to Mark again? Or are you hoping for a fight?" I had hit the nail on the head. She stalled, then raised an eyebrow defiantly. "So what if we fight? I've never been afraid of you." "Then there's nothing to fight about." I stood up and grabbed my briefcase. "I really don't mind. You don't need to bring it up." She didn't seem convinced. She pressed again. "So, you really don't think there's anything going on between me and Mark?" I paused mid-stride, my voice flat. "Whether there's something going on or not, you know the answer better than anyone." She opened her mouth to argue, but found no words. She could only watch me leave. When I reached the office, my phone lit up with a text from her. "Are you seriously not mad? You didn't even ask me about last night." I stared at the message for a moment, then typed back a single word. "No." She didn't reply. I figured it was the first time she had tasted the bitterness of genuine indifference. When I got home that evening, Elena was on the sofa. The TV was on, but she wasn't watching it. Seeing me, she asked, "Why are you so late?" "Traffic." I hung up my coat and went to the kitchen for water. She stared at my back, her patience wearing thin. "Caleb, are you giving me the cold shoulder on purpose? Are you waiting for me to apologize?" I turned to face her, a smile on my lips that didn't reach my eyes. I'm not freezing you out. I just don't have the energy to micromanage your life anymore. Are you trying to prove a point? Her voice rose, laced with irritation. Don't take that tone with me. I'm telling you, I won't put up with it. Whatever you say. I walked into my study and closed the door. I left her alone in the living room, where the remote control clattered to the floor a moment later. The sound of her frustration reached me, but I felt no ripple of emotion. She had tested my boundaries so many times, I simply stopped responding. She was starting to get nervous. On Saturday morning, Elena was up early. It was rare for her not to sleep in. She had even cooked. The sounds of pots and pans clashing mixed with her soft humming. When I walked into the dining room, the table was set. Fried eggs, sausages, and a steaming plate of bacon and sautéed mushrooms filled the air with a savory aroma. Elena, wearing an apron, poked her head out of the kitchen, smiling. Wash up and eat. I made the special breakfast today. Looks like a feast. I nodded, pulled out a chair, and grabbed a piece of toast. She took off her apron and sat opposite me, resting her chin in her hands. Is it good? Not bad. I replied casually, focusing on my food. Elena seemed dissatisfied with my reaction. She spooned some mushrooms onto my plate. Try this. I added that black pepper you like. I glanced at her, didn't touch the spoon, and slightly nudged my plate away. Don't bother. I can get it myself. Her hand froze in midair, her smile stiffening. She set the spoon down and tried to sound casual. You don't have anything going on today, right? We should go to the mall. I wiped my mouth with a napkin. Can't today. I have plans. What plans? The question shot out instinctively, laced with urgency. Work isn't busy right now. Why are you so busy on a weekend? I paused, then answered calmly, meeting a friend. Haven't seen him in a while. She blinked, then probed. Male or female? Does it matter? I countered, meeting her gaze. You wouldn't mind anyway. Like you always say, friends should have their freedom. The words were a calm, invisible slap to the face. She went silent, picking at her food. After a while, she tried to pivot. What about tonight? Dinner? I can make that steak you like. Probably won't have time tonight, either. I stood up and cleared my dishes. It's a busy week. Don't wait up. Caleb. She looked up, her voice rising uncontrollably. What is going on with you lately? If you're unhappy with me, just say it. Stop freezing me out. I'm not unhappy. I turned to look at her, losing composure. I just don't want to obsess over your every move like I used to. You wanted your space. I'm taking some space for myself. She opened her mouth to argue, but didn't know where to start. She could only watch as I grabbed my jacket and left. As I walked out, I heard her chair scrape against the floor as if she stood up to chase me, but she never spoke. The door clicked shut behind me. I found out later she stayed home all day. She didn't go out, didn't even post on Instagram. Her caution told me she was genuinely starting to panic. She was finally suspecting that she had pushed away the one person who had tried so hard to be close to her. Tuesday night, unplanned overtime. It was nearly 9 when I walked out of the conference room. Just outside the building, a familiar voice called out, Gal, what are you doing here? I turned around. It was Sarah, a senior from my college days. She looked exactly the same, shoulder-length wavy hair, that trademark smile, eyes sparkling with energy. Sarah, long time no see. I smiled. When did you get back? Last month. I moved back for good. She walked over briskly and patted my shoulder. You've done well for yourself these past few years. Suit and tie, you look the part. You haven't changed a bit. Still look exactly like you did in college. I stepped aside, gesturing for us to walk together. Since you're just back, do you need help with anything? She laughed and shook her head. Don't be so polite, Cal. I've called you by your nickname for years. Why are you acting like a stranger? Cal. I hadn't heard that nickname in forever. It felt a little strange coming from her, but I just smiled helplessly. I'm used to Caleb now. Not many people call me that since graduation. We walked and talked about old times, from eccentric professors to dorm disasters. It felt easy, like yesterday. Nostalgia has a way of relaxing you, and I found myself talking more than usual. My phone buzzed. A text from Elena. Still at work? I replied quickly, chatting with a friend. Back soon. Sarah glanced at my screen and smiled. Girlfriend? I didn't answer verbally, just nodded. Sarah raised an eyebrow, playfully. You never mentioned her. Who's the lucky girl? Just an old friend. I downplayed it. As we were saying our goodbyes near the entrance, Elena suddenly appeared. She must have come to pick me up. I hadn't expected her to run into Sarah. She is. Elena stood a few feet away. Her expression was calm, but her eyes betrayed poorly masked jealousy. Sarah, my college senior. I introduced her. This is my wife, Elena. Sarah greeted her warmly, and Elena offered a polite but strained smile. After a few pleasantries, Sarah tapped my shoulder. Cal, I'll take off. Let's grab lunch soon. Cal. Elena repeated the name, her tone sharp with suspicion. Yeah, that's what everyone called me back then, I said calmly, ignoring her tone. On the drive home, Elena pretended not to care. You and that Sarah woman seemed pretty close. Old classmates. We got along well. My voice remained flat. She didn't push further, but her knuckles were white as she gripped her purse strap. Later, Sarah texted inviting me to a college reunion that weekend. I accepted, but didn't tell Elena. She always claimed she didn't like me interacting with female friends, so I decided not to burden her with irrelevant details. However, she kept bringing Sarah up in casual conversation, her jealousy increasingly obvious. Saturday evening, I was getting dressed. Elena leaned against the doorframe, eyeing my tie. Dressed up sharp. Where are you going? Reunion. I strained my cuffs. Which classmates? She probed. Sarah organized it. I told you about her. Ich glänzte her. She scoffed. Must be nice to be so free, filling up your weekends like this. I ignored the jab, grabbed my keys, and left. She stood there, watching me go. In the reflection of the hallway mirror, I saw her expression. She definitely cared. The reunion was at a nice bistro. Sarah had booked a private room. Seeing familiar faces felt surreal. I sat next to Sarah. When the food came, she poured my tea, and I helped serve the seafood platter, a habit from our college days. You remember I love shrimp? Sarah beamed, her eyes crinkling. Hard to forget when you used to steal them off my plate. I joked softly, placing a portion on her dish. Someone across the table whistled. Caleb is still the gentleman. Sarah, you're lucky. I just smiled. Sarah didn't mind, teasing back. Hey, don't start rumors. I have a husband. It was harmless banter, but when we took a group photo and posted it, Elena didn't see it that way. 30 minutes later, my phone pinged. Elena, you two look cozy. I looked at the photo. I replied, just old classmates. It's a reunion. She didn't reply, but when I got home, the air pressure in the apartment was lethal. Elena was on the couch, phone in hand, staring at the screen like a judge reviewing evidence. You had fun today, she said coldly. Serving her food yourself? I hung on my coat, just being polite. She let out a harsh laugh. Oh, so you're attentive to your friends. How come I never see you being this attentive to me? I never said anything when you and Mark shared a bowl of noodles, I said, looking her in the eye, my voice steady. Besides, being casual with friends is normal. Didn't you always say small things aren't worth fighting over? She choked on her words, her face flashing between anger and pale shock. What is that supposed to mean? Are you comparing me to her on purpose? No. I poured a glass of water and took a slow sip. I'm just following the rules you taught me. Nothing more. Caleb, she shot up, her voice trembling with suppressed rage. What are you trying to say? Just because I was close with Mark, you're doing this to spite me? I looked at her, my calmness making her anxious. I'm not doing anything to spite you. Like I said, I just thought. You never cared about boundaries with friends, right? She snapped. Friends? You're practically dating in that photo. You posted that to humiliate me. It's a group photo. Humiliate you. I laughed dryly. You're overthinking it, Elena. She glared at me, lips trembling, unable to form a coherent argument. Finally, she stormed into the bedroom and slammed the door. In the silence that followed, I exhaled a long, weary breath. It felt like after years of losing arguments, I had finally found my balance. The next day, Sarah posted the photo on her feed with the caption, Years later, Cal is still as thoughtful as ever. Glad some things don't change. I glanced at it. Didn't comment. Elena called almost immediately. What are you doing? Her voice was low, dangerous. Working. What's up? I leaned back in my office chair. What is your relationship with Sarah? She skipped the pleasantries. College friend. I told you. Did you see her post? She was seething. I saw it. I said blandly. Nice picture. So, silence on the line. Then an explosion. Caleb, do you not give a damn about our marriage anymore? Why would you say that? Why? Do you have any idea how I feel? Being that intimate with another woman publicly. How does that make me look? It's just a photo, I said coldly. And regarding your feelings, that's strange. I remember you always saying, friends don't need to be so uptight. Is that rule only for you? She froze. The silence lasted a few seconds before she screamed. You're doing this on purpose. You're trying to hurt me. You don't respect me at all. I felt nothing but fatigue. Her emotions were a tangled mess I had no desire to unravel. Elena, I'm just treating friends the way I've been taught. By you. Keep it natural, no boundaries. Caleb, she was sobbing now. You have to do this to me? Do you know what you're doing? I know exactly what I'm doing. If you think I'm wrong, Then was everything you said to me in the past also wrong? She was stuck. If you think this is inappropriate, shouldn't you take back all those excuses you made for yourself? I cut in, my voice sharp as a knife. Elena, don't forget. You set these standards. She couldn't speak. She hung up. I knew she was shaking with rage. When I got home, the lights were on. Elena was sitting on the sofa, waiting. She stood up the moment I entered. Caleb, we need to talk. Fine. I nodded and set my briefcase on the sofa. Go ahead. She stared at me, eyes rimmed red, her voice thick with accusation. Why are you doing this? You know I'd be upset. Why do you keep contacting her? I looked at her calmly. You and Mark have been at it for years. I never saw you create distance. That's different, she shouted. We grew up together. Sarah and I are friends too. I let out a cold chuckle. I haven't forgotten anything you've said, Elena. Do you think the rules you set only apply to me? Well, you get to break them whenever you want. Her lips quivered, but she couldn't form a rebuttal. She just glared. If you think I'm crossing a line, fine. From today on, I accept that you won't mind me being affectionate with my friends. I looked her dead in the eye. That's fair, right, Elena? Tears swirled in her eyes, but didn't fall. I turned and walked to the bedroom, leaving her standing there as if her soul had been snatched away. The air was thick with tension, but for the first time, I felt like none of it was my problem. After the fight, the house fell into a weird silence. She stopped talking to me, leaving early and coming home late. I assumed she was venting to girlfriends. Instead, she went to Mark. Mark's social media was always loud, but this time he posted a video that stung my eyes. A hotel room. Elena leaning on his shoulder, swirling a glass of wine, both laughing intimately. The caption was dismissive. Nothing beats an old friend. We can talk about anything. My heart turned to ice. If he was doing this on purpose, I wouldn't disappoint him. I didn't call her. I didn't text. I simply tracked the location of the hotel and drove there. It was a boutique hotel, busy for the weekend. I walked the hallway and found a room. I knocked. The door opened. Elena was on the bed, half-dressed, cheeks flushed, clearly tipsy. She was leaning close to Mark, her hand inside his jacket. Mark had his arm around her, looking entirely too comfortable. I stood there, pulled out my phone, and calmly snapped a photo. The flash seemed to cut through the room. Caleb, she turned, her smile vanishing instantly. I didn't speak. I took another photo of the wine bottles on the table, then pocketed my phone and turned to leave. Wait, where are you going? She scrambled off the bed, stumbling after me, grabbing my wrist. Panic dripped from her voice. Let me explain. It's not what you think. Not what I think. I spun around, laughing coldly. Tell me then, what exactly did I just see? We're just friends. Her face shifted from panic to a pleading grievance. We were just drinking and talking. Elena, I'm reminding you for the last time. It's called boundaries. I shook off her hand and walked out without looking back. I ignored her calls. I compiled the photos and the video, organized them, and posted them to my feed with a simple caption. Turns out friends can be this close. Guess I was narrow-minded. By the next day, it had blown up. My parents, her parents, our mutual friends, even her coworkers saw it. Elena was besieged. Her mother called to scream at her. Friends looked at her sideways. Even Mark faced heat at work for unprofessional conduct, affecting the company image. She cried a mess at home, texting me incessantly, begging me to delete the post. I didn't reply to a single one. I just watched her apology tour with zero emotion. I used to bow my head to keep the peace. Now I just wanted to watch the fire burn. 3 days later, Elena knocked on my study door. She looked wrecked, eyes swollen, face pale. Caleb, can we talk? I put down my file. What is it? She entered, closing the door softly. Caleb, I was wrong. I know I hurt you. Can you give me one more chance? A chance? I raised a brow. Do you think chances are cheap? She burst into tears, biting her lip. I know. I shouldn't have been so close to Mark. I really messed up. I won't do it again. I swear, I'll cut him off completely. I watched her break down in silence. Seeing no reaction, she dropped to her knees, grabbing my hand. Caleb, please. I'll do anything. Just forgive me. I stared at her for a moment, then coldly pulled my hand away. Elena, saying, I will doesn't fix this. Then, what do I do? She looked helpless. We'll see. I walked to the window, turning my back to her. You can't just fix this with tears. She nodded, sobbing. Okay, I'll prove it to you. Elena did change. She blocked Mark. She posted a public apology. I messed up. I want to move forward and focus on my family. She started making breakfast, cleaning the house obsessively. The bad habits, glued to her phone, staying out late, vanished. She even suggested a weekend hike to reconnect. I went, but I offered no enthusiasm. Just a flat sure. She tried to make conversation, tried to smile, but my lack of response made her stiff. I could see the fear in her eyes. She was terrified that we couldn't go back. She was desperate for even a nod from me, but I knew it was surface level. She wasn't repenting. She was just trying to claw back the security she had lost. And I was no longer the man who would unconditionally catch her. Her redemption lasted a month. She seemed perfect, but the unnatural stiffness in her actions kept me skeptical. The break came on a Saturday night. She said she had to work late, but she left her phone at home. I was there when it buzzed. A text from a generic name. What time tonight? I booked that steakhouse you love. I stared at the screen, grip tightening. She ran back and a minute later, grabbed the phone, and rushed out. I waited a beat, grabbed my keys, and drove to the steakhouse. It was a cozy, dimly lit place. I spotted them in a corner booth immediately. Elena and Mark. They were facing each other, wine and steaks on the table. Elena's head was bowed, smiling shyly. Mark whispered something, looking relaxed. A few seconds later, Mark leaned in and kissed her cheek. Elena didn't pull away. She playfully punched his chest, then leaned in to kiss him back. I snapped a photo. Then I walked over. Looks cozy. I am Stadvin. My voice was sub-zero, dropping like a bomb onto their table. Elena's head snapped up, the color draining from her face. Caleb, you. Mark froze, then stood up, trying to play it cool. Caleb, don't misunderstand. We were just. Misunderstand? I cut him off with a sneer, holding on my phone screen showing the photo I just took. Elena stumbled, nearly falling. Caleb, it's not like that. Save it. I looked at her with disgust. Elena, I thought we were clear. Turns out your regret was just a performance. Tears streamed down her face. No, I felt lonely. Lonely. So you ran back to him? My voice was calm but lethal. Do you think I'm ever going to believe a word you say again? Mark tried to step in. Caleb, listen to me. I shot him a look. You better shut your mouth. I gave you a pass before. This is on you. I turned and walked away. I heard a chair scrape and Elena screaming. Caleb, don't go. Listen to me. I didn't stop. Her explanations were worthless. Back home, I printed everything. The photos, the chat logs. I laid them on the table. When Elena came back, crying, she saw the stack. She rushed to me, grabbing my arm. Caleb, I know I was wrong. Please. I wasn't thinking. I shoved the papers toward her. This is what you promised me. She flipped through them, shaking. Caleb, please. Enough. I pulled away. Elena, I'm done. I want a divorce. She froze. Divorce? No. Caleb, we can fix this. I can't. You destroyed my trust and my patience. She collapsed, grabbing my leg. Don't leave me. I can't live without you. Elena, I've already left. She suddenly ran to the kitchen, grabbed a knife, and held it to her wrist. If you divorce me, I'll die right here. My heart clenched, but my face remained stone. Elena, do you think this fixes anything? She trembled, knife in hand. Caleb, I really can't. I walked over, took the knife from her limp hand, and set it aside. If you want me to stay, learn to love yourself instead of threatening me. She slumped to the floor, wailing in despair. I walked into the bedroom and locked the door. She cried all night. I had made my decision. There was no going back. Divorce proceedings started. Elena was a zombie, constantly trying to reach me. Mark, however, got aggressive. He texted me. We need to talk. Be a man. I met him at a coffee shop. He wore a leather jacket, looking dark. Caleb, straight up. Elena still loves you. Pushing her to the brink isn't manly. I leaned back. Mark, since when do you have the moral high ground? You pushed her off the cliff. He slammed the table. I just don't want to see her in pain. If you weren't so unforgiving, she wouldn't be like this. Do you care about her? I asked coldly. Or do you just like winning? You used her to prove you're better than me. He turned red. You're crossing a line. I see you clearly now. I stood up. You destroyed her under the guise of caring. I'm done with your drama. I left him there. Hours later, I got a call from Elena's parents. Panic. Caleb. Elena. Something happened. What? She and Mark went for a drive. The car crashed. They're gone. Her mother's wail pierced my ear. I went to the scene. The police were there. The car had gone through a guardrail and down an embankment. Speeding and loss of control. Both dead on impact. Mark was driving. Standing by the rail, looking down, I felt a complex mix of emotions. A police officer handed me a bag of personal effects. Elena's phone. There was a draft text to me. Caleb, I'm sorry. I hurt you too deep. I wanted to say goodbye, but I was scared you wouldn't listen. I hope you have a good life. It felt like a physical blow to the chest. But underneath the pain, there was a strange release. It was finally over. A tragic end, but now I could restart my life. A week later, the funerals were held. The autopsy report came back to rule out foul play. It revealed Elena was 3 months pregnant. We hadn't slept together in 6 months. Her acting had been better than I thought. Istuda Hiakao. Her parents held my hands, weeping. Caleb, we're sorry. We didn't raise her right. Don't, I said softly. It's in the past. Take care of yourselves. I didn't stay long. I said my goodbye to the stone and walked away. The only way to honor the end of a relationship is to let it go. Back home, I opened the windows. Sunlight flooded the living room. I packed everything related to Elena into boxes and moved them to the basement. The final cut. My phone buzzed. A text from Sarah. Heard things have been rough. Want meet up and talk. I hesitated, then typed. Thanks. I could use the fresh air. A few days later, we met at a book bar. Sarah handed me a warm latte, her expression filled with concern. How are you holding up? Any better? I'm getting there. I smiled faintly. It was rough at first, adjusting to the quiet, but I'm getting used to it. She nodded, her eyes soft but filled with a quiet certainty. Starting over isn't as terrifying as it seems. You're a rational guy, Caleb. I know you can handle this. In that moment, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders, a lightness I hadn't felt in years. She was right. Starting over wasn't impossible. In the days that followed, I shifted my focus entirely to my career and my own well-being. I started running every morning, reading more, and even spent my weekends volunteering at a local community center. I also adopted a stray cat. I named her Nova, a symbol of new beginnings. Sometimes, thoughts of Elena would drift into my mind, but the memories no longer carried that sharp sting. Her departure marked the end of a chapter, but my life still had pages to be written. One crisp morning, while on my run, I stopped to watch the sun rising over the city skyline. The golden light washed over the buildings, warm and brilliant. I paused, taking a deep, steady breath, feeling the cool air fill my lungs. I felt energized, surrounded by strength I had forgotten I possessed. This was my new life, unbound by the past, and finally full of hope. Story complete.